Now, for those of you wondering what's going on, this is Mike van Wyck. He's a former bodybuilder, and as you can see, the man is pretty jacked, he's very big. And the other guy is Jeff Nippard. So they basically both personal trainers. Mike van Wyck is or was an enhanced bodybuilder, basically meaning he used steroids to get to that size. But now he's doing bodybuilding. He was also a former bodyguard of Drake and so forth. So he does his own thing. Both of them are big on social media. They are huge influencers and so forth. Now, Jeff Nippard, the younger guy or the shorter guy, he's a natural bodybuilder. So basically, he doesn't use any types of steroids or growth hormone and so forth. And his approach to bodybuilding and gymming is more scientific. So basically, he's going to focus more on your posture and exactly what types of movements one should be making, what you should eat and so forth. So he's basically more in theory. So his thing is he goes to gyms and he tries to give advice to people on how to gym from a scientific point of view.
You'll often hear that if you want the best gym advice, you ask the biggest guy. But is that actually true? I wanted to find out, so I went to one of the biggest bodybuilding gyms in the world to see if the best pro bodybuilders would be willing to take science-based lifting advice from me.
Would you be open to taking a few science-based tips from me or no? So I'm trying to see if people who are bigger than me would be open to hearing science-based lifting advice. Would you be open to taking some science-based advice from me, even though you're the pro?
And this time around, he went to this guy, Mike van Wyck, and things went south and he was pushed in the neck.
People do this chest press thing. So I don't know, everyone sees people do this. They squeeze the plate here and then they flex it out. Like they literally flex out here and they think like, this is hitting my inner chest. Like that is like caveman level bodybuilding. They're like, oh, I lay there and I push this out. Of course it does.
So why am I talking about this? First of all, I do not condone any type of violence, and one should never put their hands on somebody else, no matter what, unless it's in self-defense. But there are just so many lessons to be learned from this. First off, one should learn how to stay in their own lane. Do not cast your pearls before swine. I think Jesus said that in the Bible at one point as well. So basically it means do not give unwanted advice to people. People who never asked you for advice, well, don't tell them how to live their lives. I'm sure so many of us can actually learn a thing or two from that. I know I too can as well. There are many times where I'm tempted to tell people, no, don't do this or don't do that. This is wrong or this is right and whatnot. But then I always remember at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes and we all have our own different life paths. And you can't really, it's not judging, but you can't really sit there and try to dictate how someone should do things unless, of course, you have been asked, or unless that person is like your child or your parents or someone where you've got some kind of authority or a right to kind of speak, Secondly, what can we learn from this is that, all right, so two guys have both achieved their optimal physical condition. Both of them big, both of them successful, both of them influencers and so forth. Fitness influencers, right? So the one got to where he is through doing steroids and doing bodybuilding and becoming a bodyguard for Drake and so forth. And the other guy did it without the steroids and whatnot and through theory. And I think what drives his channel and his page is that people like the fact that he's so deep into the scientific part of muscle building and so forth. But both of them have seemingly managed to achieve their goals, So that's another lesson to learn, is that in life, there isn't only one path to the top, Both paths can be taken, and we are not here to judge who did what to get where, because, for example, say the guy who was a bodybuilder, maybe bodybuilding was the only way for him to get out of a certain type of living condition. And the smaller guy, on the other hand, maybe he didn't have the genetics in the first place to be a good bodybuilder. So what did he have? Time to sit down, read, think. So he had to use his brain and find out how he can basically reach his optimal physical or peak condition, or level. So that's another lesson. Lesson number 3 here to be learned is that, all right, now we can see the bigger guy who's Mike van Wyck. Mike has reached that size through performance enhancers, all right? So just because he's big, it doesn't mean he knows how to gym. The same way, just because the other guy is smaller, it doesn't mean he doesn't know how to gym. So just because someone is showing a specific or a certain type of result, it doesn't mean that they know what they're doing in the first place. I take it back to the Bible. So, for example, a lot of people like to say things like, yeah, but Abraham, Moses, and all the other people, Jacob and Noah, were so much better than us and so forth because God used them so much. But as we can see in the Bible, these men made so many mistakes, blunders at some point where people lost their lives. You know, they had sexual problems. Some of them had problems with drinking. Some of them were murderers and so forth. I think God did this intentionally to show us that they're not perfect. But just because he used them to maybe part the Red Sea or survive in an ark and so forth, or heal the blind, you know, or heal the lepers and so forth, it doesn't mean that just because they did those things that they're better than you and me. We're all the same and we all have different paths to the top. So I think there are just so many things to be learned in this video. And overall, you know, the last lesson, I think, which is the most basic, it only shows weakness if you feel that you have to physically attack someone who hasn't done something to you. If you feel that you have to physically attack someone for simply them trying to share, you know, some type of advice or, you know, tell you what to do and so forth, even if this is at work, it only shows weakness on your part. So in this case, the bigger guy clearly showed that he couldn't handle his own emotions. And I think that's something that even women find very unattractive and men find weak.